He said कि sir, it's not only about the CBFC, even INB ministry has the problem with the film. What is CBFC's job? Why CBFC is formed? CBFC एक independent body है. वो इसलिए बनाई गई है to protect फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन, आर्टिस्ट का इंटरेस्ट, और उनका काम सर्टिफिकेट देना है. इंडिपेंडेंट बॉडी इसलिए ताकि उनका डिसीजन जो है वो किसी भी सिटिंग गवर्नमेंट से कलर कोऑर्डिनेटेड नहीं होना चाहिए. इफ INB मिनिस्ट्री नीड टू टेक द कॉल कि which film should get released with how many cuts, then why we need CBFC?
Imagine conceptualizing a movie that you envision to be a first directorial creation. The time taken to tell the story of Jaswant Singh Khalra would not be the hurdle for the director Haneet Rehan, a creator who is from the land this story comes from. He would not even face problems while shooting the film in the same localities in which some of the most grave human rights violations were conducted. The problems arise when the movie is to ultimately release. This movie was ready with its final edit by 2023. The amount of censorship and red tape that it has experienced is some of the most baffling and shocking news I've read. Every time a news article would be published about Punjab 95 that is titled as Satluj today, it would be about the number of cuts that this movie is instructed to execute in order to even envision it ever releasing. Numbers like 25 cuts, 60 cuts, 85 cuts, and ultimately after a revising committee being instructed to execute 127 cuts was instructed to the makers of this film. Multiple screenings, sometimes with the same revising committee, would make Haneet Rehan's life hell. Some of the most shocking instructions that were given to Haneet Rehan was to remove the presence of the name Punjab. The association of atrocities being tied to the Punjab police was to be cut down. The mention of the specific districts in which the unclaimed bodies were burnt or disposed was to be cut. And you know what's even worse? One of the instructions was to also never mention the name of Jaswant Singh Khalra, the person on which this movie is based. This is the state of affairs when we observe the case of censorship in this country with movies. Every time Haneet Rehan and Ronnie Screwvala assumed that they will be reaching close to the finish line or in context to the storyline, near the light, they would be advised not to release the film internationally, be removed from the lineup of the Toronto Film Festival because it would not be appreciated. Anytime the concept of freedom of speech, especially in the space of filmmaking, is concerned with this country, those who defend it as not being such a grave state of affairs either cherry pick the movies that ultimately release or end up comparing us to the countries that are barely staying afloat with its democratic principles, stating at least we are better off than some. Punjab 95, having gone through over 3 years of legal struggles, had made the director and lead actor Diljit Dosanjh reach such a point of frustration that they stated that they will be fine with the movie releasing with 127 cuts, but they would not like their names to be mentioned as director and lead actor of the movie, staying adamant that if this story needs to be seen by the public, it should release completely uncensored with 0 cuts. Titled Satluj today, the movie unceremoniously, without any promotions, released on ZEE5 last night. This will forever be my stand regarding censorship in this country, that every film should exist and it becomes the prerogative of the audience to decide whether they will watch it or not. You can agree or disagree with the content, have the freedom to label it the truth or blatant propaganda, but the entire spectrum of political films should be allowed to exist. Punjab 95 or Satluj deserve to release uncut and uncensored like many movies that got a theatrical release unscathed. It breaks my heart that it only releases digitally, but here I am talking about the film, which is possibly one of the most heartbreaking and disturbing movies of the year that I highly recommend to all of you. The movie is based on the events that took place in Punjab after 1984. A lot of popular media and those who have not read about the findings after the big headlines, that includes the rise of the Khalistan movement in Punjab, Operation Blue Star, the assassination of Indira Gandhi, and the anti-Sikh riots that took place afterwards, have this assumption that the period in the 90s in Punjab was not associated with as much turmoil and violence as the previous years. The tenacity of the population of Punjab is next to none, that in each decade experienced such hostility, violence, and a series of unpredictable life-changing events, but still as a collective unit have a resilience to rise again. The film specifically deals with this period where militancy was still rampant in the state, a young population was still being influenced to join extremist movements, and the police was instructed to curb the growth of such anti-national elements. While the rise of terrorism was a growing concern in the state, many people describing Punjab like a ticking time bomb, the power and independence that this environment gave to the police also led to thousands of extrajudicial killings. Jaswant Singh Khalra, played by Diljit Dosanjh, was a director in a bank, living a cozy and comfortable life with his family that included a wife and 2 children. He was drawn to the mysterious case of crematoriums and districts burning hundreds of bodies and recording them as unclaimed. Bodies of individuals who had nothing to do with the Khalistani movement, that had living family members, assuming that they have just gone missing, only to realize a huge nexus of corruption and power that was going absolutely unchecked within the police force. What popular media presented as super cops had also become butchers in the state, eliminating innocent lives with no legal repercussions as it was executed under the guise of removing terrorism. Jaswant Singh Khalra's battle in exposing the police, his rise in popularity, and how this comes in direct conflict with those in positions of power, namely the police and politicians, forms the basic premise of this extremely powerful film that I believe you should watch before it randomly gets stripped away from the ZEE5 library. The opening scene itself provides you the chilling atmosphere of how power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. A police jeep moving through the open fields, officers drunk and merry in joy, eliminate humans as if it was mere sport. You look at a man distraught that he is not getting married because he is still a sub-inspector, only for one more target to be executed, and be congratulated that he has been given his ticket to a promotion. The motivation to eliminate as many individuals as an incentive to rise above the ranks in the police force was one of the most disturbing elements of the Punjab police during this time. The cinematography by K.U. Mohanan transports us to this dreaded atmosphere that presents these desaturated frames in the grey ominous skies. There is a deep sadness that perpetually fills the frames, of the leaves that have dried up and the events that take place in the state being so inhumane and grave that even the rivers have changed its course to not bear witness to the crimes. Painfully described in the film that the bodies that remain piled up in crematoriums being transported by trucks and the corpses that get thrown in the canals never become statistics. You feel this is a Punjab story set in the 90s because it is shot in the locations director Hani Trehan is well versed with. In an interview with Kunal Kamra, he described how there were people of the police force who were hesitant in allowing him to access the same stations where the atrocities may have taken place, but how majorly people still wanted the story of Jaswant Singh Khalra to be told to millions. You're looking at a time in the 90s that the police force, whose presence should provide a sense of encouragement and relief for you personally, that you will be safe and taken care of, had the reputation of just instilling fear in the citizens. Even FIRs for missing individuals are scoffed at. Everyone is labelled a terrorist by mere association. Help is bleak and the suffering was rampant. Jaswant Singh Khalra, like many of us, lived a peaceful, happy life. He was not compelled to fight the right fight. He chose it. The conversation that Diljit has with his wife, played by a brilliant Geetika Vidya Ohlan, is what takes place in every middle class family, to take the path of least resistance and avoid conflict at any cost, only for Jaswant to believe he is destined to be the voice for so many grieving families. Majority of the sequences from the movie is based on court records of sequences described by people and present in legal documents, and there is this absolutely disturbing scene that had my jaw drop. To notice the unchecked manner in which the police functioned with individuals they eliminated who were a mere inconvenience. The scene goes from the morgue in the hospital to an open field and back to the hospital in such a casual fashion that you can't believe that this was the trauma one dealt with at a period of time in the state. The movie categorically mentions on how the movement to expose such doings was not an anti-national or anti-police movement, but was intended to expose key individuals who had absolutely rotted the system and how their moral conscience and duty in the midst of the state dealing with terrorism had completely gone astray. The movie is not anti-police, but against those people who played God and chose who is worthy of life and death. It is no joke the manner in which Jaswant Singh Khalra made his case strong by collecting records from crematoriums and municipal corporations to validate with legal names on who is being presented as unclaimed bodies was a feat in itself. Jaswant's pursuit in this manner was so relentless that he was being called as La Varis Lasha Da Varis, a source of hope for families grieving but a nuisance for those given a free hand in the state. The one complaint that I have with the film is the atrocities committed by the Khalistani terrorists should have had a larger presence in the film's narrative. While it is an omnipresent feature of the film, it is mostly alluded to versus shown explicitly. While Beyan Singh's assassination is a major part of the film's narrative, I think the presence of terrorism within the state, or what compelled the police to become the monsters that remain unchecked, could have for me personally made this movie faultless. We often on this channel have spoken about the problem and language in cinema, on how odd casting acting choices often lead to movies finding it tough to land emotionally with the audience because the accents performed by the actors are so dumbed down that it nullifies all the goodwill built by the movie's storytelling. Satluj is a prime example of how impactful casting can bring an authenticity to the storytelling. The movie boasts of multiple Punjabi actors, and even though the film is primarily in Hindi, when the actors do transition to speak in Punjabi, it is so authentic that none of the ensemble cast ever stick out like a sore thumb. Geetika Vidya Ohlan is the supportive wife of Jaswant, and she is brilliant. A scene in which she breaks down in court upon knowing the reality of what may have transpired with her husband is exceptional. Kanwaljeet Singh as the DGP is brilliant, picking up the cadence, tone and body language perfectly, modeled around the police officer infamous in the state. Suvinder Vicky truly left me in awe of just the quiet yet intimidating gaze he had in this film, staring down his target, entering their personal space, commanding the area as if he owns it. And this one scene as he enters a junior police officer's house, eats the home-cooked saag with ease, only to cause absolute carnage, had me speechless. An actor that is truly special indeed. The group of corrupt police officers who are still serving a life imprisonment in real life especially were outstanding. I had to conclude ultimately with this film that Diljit Dosanjh really is a special actor, man. I remember first being blown away by his acting performance in the Punjabi film Punjab 1984, but he absolutely surrenders to this role as well, of the man deeply disturbed by the events taking place in the state that he claims to be his home. Jaswant could have easily taken asylum in Canada, a choice that was offered to him, but he believed that the choice would be an end to the movement and goal he set out to achieve. Diljit conveys this emotional empathy that he feels brilliantly, being drawn towards making sure that everyone is made aware of the atrocities being committed. In a scene that is still relevant today, he is asked by someone influential on whether it is right to speak ill of one's country in a foreign land, and I couldn't help but wonder what would be the choice of any man who feels unsafe conveying the truth in his own country. The second half that presents a capable Arjun Rampal as the presiding CBI investigating officer just tells you the arduous journey one embarks upon when one seeks for the truth in this country. Compromised eyewitnesses, red tape and corruption are rampant in the case of finding the whereabouts of Jaswant Singh Khalra, all denied under the guise of police को बदनाम करने की साजिश है. Exactly what the film will be criticized for, who can't believe that official bodies were committing such grave acts. We have been so inundated in popular media with seeing cops as heroes in our films, with these massy dialogues where they eventually win in the end by killing the corrupt villain, not realizing that the case of human rights violations and extrajudicial killings is something films in India barely explore. It's something I so vividly remember in a disturbing movie like Visarnai directed by Vetrimaran. It makes me guess that it may be a large reason of why this movie was attempted to be silenced, for one can't fathom the police officers to be the villains, for how the establishment wants to control on who is the victim and heroes of most stories, no matter how true they may be. In this Shakespearean-esque scene where Diljit Dosanjh, bloodied, beaten and bruised, interacts with one of the eyewitnesses, I could not help but tear up for how exceptionally written and performed this scene was. It is a scene, if I explain further, will border on spoilers, but it is so exceptionally written and performed by Diljit that it made me conclude that this may be one of the most powerful films I have seen in a few years, not just this year. A story that needed to be told and that you should watch before it falls into another array of legal troubles and vanishes again.
तो आपने ये कट्स कर दिया, मैंने सर जो आपने बोला था वो कर तो दिया है, उन्होंने कहा पर असर कम नहीं हो रहा है. एंड देन द हेड ऑफ द रिवाइजिंग कमेटी ही सेड कि सब सच बोला है आपने, पर इतनी जोर से सच कौन बोलता है.